When getting ready to put your house up for sale, does a word home inspection make you cringe? Hi, my name is Elenakovrigin and today I am with Jim Rauland with Quality Home Consultants, and we are at undisclosed location to protect sellers and buyers' privacy, and we're just gonna go over some of the things that the inspector is looking for at a pre-listing home inspection.
This is a complicated venture, okay? It takes professional.
During a typical home inspection, pre-listing, or when we do it for a buyer, we're going to be going over the exterior, including the roofing, the gutters, yard drainage, porches, patios, driveways. We're going to be going through the interior, checking windows, doors, outlets, all the interior components. We'll be checking the plumbing, all the main plumbing components and each individual fixture. We go through the electric system. We take the cover off the main panel and make sure that everything's wired correctly. We'll check out the heating and air conditioning systems to make sure that they're operating properly and safe to use. We'll check the structure of the home and the crawl spaces and basements to make sure that there's no moisture or insect damage. And we'll be checking for any cracked foundation walls and things of that nature. We'll also be checking water heaters and any electrical components that come with the heating system. When we're doing our interior inspection, things like stains on the ceiling and walls indicate that there may have been a previous roof leak, and we'll be getting into the attic to make sure that there's no leaks, that ongoing leaks, and also to get on the roof to make sure, double check to make sure that these aren't active leaks. We take the covers off the main panel and any sub panels, and we make sure that the circuits are wired properly with the right size wire, and make sure that there's no heat or any electrical shorts in the panel. This is something that a typical homeowner would know to be able to do. And once this panel's off, it's dangerous. Somebody that doesn't know what they're looking at wouldn't want to take this cover off anyway because it becomes a safety issue. So we're going to check the heating and cooling system, and we'll start with the AC since it's already on, and we're going to drop the temperature, and then we're going to go downstairs and take some temperature at the air handler to make sure that it's cooling properly. And we want to get the difference between the return air and the supply air, and that's going to give us an indication of how well the air conditioning is working.
And then you're going to do the same for heating?
And the same for heating.
Okay.
And since this is a gas furnace, we're going to also be checking the burners to make sure that there's no problem with the burners inside the air handler.
No.
So here we have 48 degrees. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to check it on the return side to see the difference between the two and see how well it's cooling.
Okay, what should be the difference, or should be any difference?
The difference should be a minimum of 15 degrees. So anything under 15 degrees, we're going to be calling to get an HVAC technician to service it.
It doesn't sound like another thing that a typical seller can do on their own. It's not like a visual inspection where you can see a crack somewhere. You really need to know what you're doing before you start poking in your vents.
So when we get to the furnace, we're going to take off the covers to make sure that the unit is venting properly and that there's no corrosion on the burners, and to make sure that there's no leaks or gas leaks or exhaust leaks. What we look at while we're in the basement is to check the foundation walls to make sure that there's no cracks or bulges, and to look for moisture. I'm going to go ahead and take our radon monitor into the basement. We're going to set this and leave it here for 48 hours, and that's enough time to get a good indication whether or not there's an elevated level of radon here.
Radon is found in all parts of North Carolina and is a second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking. So a lot of buyers will choose to do radon inspection. And next on the checklist is the roof.
We're going to get on most of the roofs that we inspect. The only limitations that we have for inspecting roofs or getting on the roof would be if they were too steep to walk, or if there was ice or snow, or a thunderstorm. So we're going to be checking the gutters to make sure that they're clean and draining properly.
And why is that important?
Because if the gutters aren't cleaned and draining properly, then they're going to overflow, and then they can cause damage to the exterior of the building, as well as be an entry to water in the crawl space or basement. We're going to walk around the outside of the house, and we're going to be looking for wood rot or insect damage in siding and soffits and fascia. We're going to look at the yard drainage to make sure that the water is flowing away from the house. We're going to be looking at even the vegetation around the house to make sure that it's not up against the home, or there's any root systems that could damage the foundation. We're also going to be identifying where the main electrical, water, and gas shutoffs are, and we'll be taking photos to let a potential buyer know where to shut these utilities off. We'll be looking for any kind of settlement and exterior porches to make sure that the ground hasn't shifted and caused any settlement issues for the steps or porch. We'll be checking all exterior outlets to make sure that they're grounded and safe to use. The case where the bushes are a little too close to the home and it's crowding out the outside part of this heat pump. It can also lead to damage to the screen and siding if it's not trimmed. We're going to be looking for wood rot or insect damage around exterior doors and trim, and checking the windows to make sure that the insulation value is intact. Here's an example of carpenter bee. This is one of the wood destroying insects that we're looking for, and this is the dust that they create by eating the wood.
A sale of a house can certainly put a lot of stress on sellers, from being emotionally attached to the house, to waiting for the right buyer to come along, to negotiating offers, and then that unexpected aspect when it comes to waiting for the inspection report and having buyers to decide what to do with some issues that might come up on that inspection report. While some sellers decide to do pre-listing inspection, that way they can eliminate that unknown factor, and they can decide whether or not they want to tackle some of those repairs before putting the house on the market. Having an inspection report done and providing receipts for repairs, if sellers choose to do some repairs, can be a great marketing tool as well, and a lot of buyers will certainly appreciate that. It can also expedite the closing because buyers will not have to do an inspection and will not have to come back to the seller and try to negotiate some repairs or asking price. I hope you found this information useful, and if you did, put thumbs up and leave a comment, and I will see you next time.